Okay, guys, so last time you were supposed to watch the film Lord of the Flies online and take as many notes as possible. You were supposed to concentrate on objects and characters to try and understand the symbolism that is used here. Right, so for the island, we could say that it's like a microcosm representing the world. Roger, I don't know if you spotted Roger. We don't hear his name very often, but basically he was the worst. Okay? He represents evil, Satan. Then there's Jack. Of course, you know who Jack is, the blonde boy. He here represents savagery, anarchy, and an unchecked desire for power and domination. Ralph, on the other hand, of course, represents democracy and order. The conch, well, the conch is on the side of civilization, political legitimacy, and speech. The dying captain, well, he can be seen as a symbol for a dying civilization and authority. It's like civilization stepping backwards. As for Piggy, he represents the scientific and intellectual aspects of civilization. His glasses, well, they're used to make fire and can also represent clear-sightedness. And if you pay attention, the state they're in represents the state of social order. Simon, okay, well, he's pure goodness in the film. He's a Christ figure. And finally, the beast, we could say it represents the evil residing in everyone, the sort of dark side of human nature. It's also a very strong symbol that Jack uses to control and manipulate the boys. Okay, you were also supposed to concentrate and take notes about civilization on the one hand and savagery on the other. So Golding's central point is that a conflict between an impulse towards civilization and the impulse towards savagery rages within each human individual. And so if you pay attention, each of the main characters represents a certain idea or aspect of this spectrum between civilization and savagery. We're first going to pay attention to civilization elements. So I've got a few quotes for you. For example, Ralph, he says, we're going to have rules. He says that they're going to have to work together, build a camp, and that they need more discipline. The conch is also a very strong symbol because it is reminiscent of democracy, politics, gathering, and of course, speech. Piggy and science, of course, because he has quite a lot of knowledge about diseases, poisonous plants, fire. He's the one who suggests they use the conch as a trumpet, and he's also a very rational character. He's the one who says, no one knows we're here. And last of all, he wants to build a clock. Simon, well, he's a Christ-like figure. He looks after the ill. And in that sense, he also belongs to the civilization elements that one should write down. Right, moving on to savagery. Well, of course, we had already mentioned Jack. He says, no parents, no teachers, no academy. And basically, you should hear no authority. There's a loss of sense of time. If you listen to the boys, they wonder, what day is it? What time is it? Etc. Third point, they start painting their faces with blood, which can be seen as a primitive and violent display of group identity. There's also the fact that we witness a pre-religious belief system, so you can think of the beast and the gift they have for it. The next point refers to probably one of the most intense moments of the film. It concerns the danse macabre and the reenactment of the pig hunt and execution. You hear very powerful tribe-like music, there's fire, and of course it ends in Simon's murder. The group of hunters also represent a form of savagery because they are reduced to basic needs. We also hear one stage Jack say, I want you, Piggy, which has a cannibal echo to it. And finally, you can think of the manhunt at the end of the movie. There's a return of uncontrolled fire, destructive passion, and this sort of collective hysteria. And so, in terms of movements, what we see in the film is actually civilization failing. Okay, it's recoiling. Think of the captain. He's growling, okay? He's not even using language anymore. He doesn't even stand up. He's living in a cave. And most interestingly, he's not even recognized as a human being, okay? They think he's a monster. We can also see this with the failed rescue opportunity. Okay, they failed to be rescued because, well, they didn't follow the rules. The rules weren't respected and the fire was out. And this happens simultaneously with the birth of the new group, the hunters, and the killing of the pig. So there are other elements we could consider. For example, criminal law. At one stage, they ask, what should we do with thieves? And we see scenes of torture and the threat of being banished. Food and hunting is also interesting because it degenerates from the essential need to feed to killing Simon's pet, then killing Simon, and finally hunting down Ralph as the last vestige of a civilized world. What about the fire? Well, on the one hand, it's an essential means of survival, okay? You need it to cook food, to avoid diseases, to keep warm, and to signal for help. But it's also a ruthless force that gets out of hand. At the beginning, it completely burns the tree, and at the end, it looks like it's going to burn the whole island. So it's on the side of both civilization and savagery. So it's very close to human nature, which is both beautiful and destructive. The final scene is a scene of complete dystopia. So what about the assemblies? Well, the boys' assemblies are likened to both ends of the social or civil spectrum, from pre-verbal tribe gatherings to modern governmental institutions. So this indicates that while the forum of politics has changed over the millennia, the dynamic remains the same. Interesting part in the book is when the Lord of the Flies, so the beast, tells Simon, fancy thinking the beast was something you could hunt and kill. You knew, didn't you? I'm part of you. And this is a key element to understand Lord of the Flies. Simon has the revelation that evil isn't simply a component of human nature, but an active element that seeks expression. So, a few conclusions here. First of all, verbal communication is the sole property of civilization, while savagery is non-verbal or silent. Secondly, the conch plays a key role because it symbolizes not only the power to speak during an assembly, but also the power of speech, an ability that separates humans from animals. And following the death of Piggy and the destruction of the conch, in the book it says the silence was complete, as if Piggy provided the last bastion of human intellect or humanity itself on the island. And so, with the loss of regulated discourse came the end of Ralph's humane influence on the boys. What about Golding's message? Well, we've covered most of it. Basically, society holds everyone together, and without these conditions, our ideals, our values, and the basics of right and wrong are lost. According to Golding, without society's rigid rules, anarchy and savagery would come to light. So Golding's also showing that morals come directly from our surroundings. And if there is no civilization around us, we will lose these values quite quickly. And last of all, I think you had understood, there is no external beast.